All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Welcome to my free monthly masterclass. We're talking about embracing fear and taking aligned action. So many people, because I work with entrepreneurs. If you don't know who I am, my name's Camille Miller. And I am a transformational business strategist, intuitive coach, mentor, and I help soul-led entrepreneurs create businesses in alignment with who they are. And I also help them scale with soul, because many times as people are creating the businesses, they're doing it from a passion, from their heart, right? They're feeling good. They're like, this is what I want to do. I want it to be in alignment. But then as they start to make money or get closer to those six figures, they whoop right into masculine energy. And it's the ego and it's the hunt and it's how do I pay my bills and I need to fill my programs. And that is not with soul, right? That is with ego. And ego is opposite of soul. Some people call it masculine energy and feminine energy. We do require both to run a business. And that's what's really important, because so many times I come up to entrepreneurs and they're like, I just want to be in flow. And I was like, okay, I want you to be in flow too, but there is something called aligned action. And that means you actually have to be doing something, putting your foot on the gas to make the car go, right? You can't constantly be in neutral, because sometimes you're going to hit a hill, right? Or you're going to go down pretty fast, right? Think about a car in neutral for all of those who used to drive manual cars, right? You have to be in gear and moving forward to scale in any direction. And this even goes for people that have not had, if you're not having sustainable income over time, right? Even if it's $2,000 or $1,000, whatever it is for you that makes you happy, first we have to get sustainable and then we have to scale it, right? All of it needs to be done in what I call soulful energy in alignment. One of my masterminds that I work with, we're all working to get to 20K months in soul alignment, right? In alignment, because it is very hard at that level not to go further. So one of the biggest things I encounter when I work with entrepreneurs is the mindset, right? Because it's actually your mindset and your belief that is going to bring you success. It's imposter syndrome, right? Many people came out of the corporate world where they were making a lot of money, doing very logical jobs, structured environment, and they're like, this is how business is supposed to get done, right? So sometimes when we create an alternative business model, right, a different way of doing business, they're like, yeah, their internal self believes they can't make money that way, right? Outwardly, they probably believe it, but internally, their subconscious beliefs are going, yeah, this isn't going to work. No one's going to buy this, right? Maybe I'll keep my prices low. So fear is a big thing that I work with my clients. If anyone's a high-end client or they're working in part of my private advisory or my masterminds, they get what's called Psych K, which is an energy psychology, and I could shift some things that are happening in their subconscious beliefs to allow them to grow. Does that make sense? I know the people that follow me all understand energy and soul, so I usually don't have to explain myself, but that's what it is, right? It's all these subconscious beliefs. So I thought having a class on fear and aligned action would be helpful for a lot of people, because fear is in all of us. And I am the first to admit, I have fear sometimes too. We all do. You will at every single level too. I find it very often before people get consistent. I find it right before people hit about 100,000, like around 75,000. They're consistent, but they can't break it. They can't break it. And then once they hit 100, because they've been so set on that, they hover between 100 and 115, 125. Then they can't break through that. And that's usually just increasing your prices, right? Which we'll talk about. It happens again at 300,000, and it happens again about 750,000. I don't work with many people that are way over $1 million. But that's where I see it for my solo entrepreneurs, right? So for most of the people that work with me or what I call micro entrepreneurs, are not at $1 million yet, and they have less than 5 people on their team. Most are solo entrepreneurs, or they have like a VA or something like that. Okay. So I'd love to hear from you guys. If anyone wants to talk, or just write it in the chat for me. What is some of your biggest fears that you have found during entrepreneurship itself? So we can talk about that. And if there was a reason why you specifically came to this class, because if you put it, I'll make sure I address it. If you put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and talk to me if you feel comfortable with that. But the biggest fear I see is there's a fear of success, a fear of people don't do it that way, right? And imposter syndrome is really self-worth, right? Those are the two biggest ones. There's always money blocks and self-worth, right? Are people really going to pay me to do this? Especially if you're a gifted individual. I think we're all gifted, by the way. But if you're part of the intuitive arts, right? I'm very intuitive. Spirit tells me crap all the time. I think it's awesome, but I never thought of it as a gift or something that made me extra until I realized that I can be in front of people and I'm shown like their plan. Like I can see it. It's like a web, right? And I never thought that that was something that was worth a lot of money until I realized it was, right? And I'm like, oh, I guess everyone can't do this. And I collapse time by doing it, right? I can collapse time. I can collapse your subconscious beliefs. We can just put you into something and excel, right? Many of you also have these unique gifts, right? You could be a psychic, you could be a medium, you could be intuitive, you could be soul led. You might be really fantastic at whatever your craft is, right? It could be taxes, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, any type of healer, right? You have a craft and you are very, very good at it. But sometimes we have the fear of putting yourself out there. If you're in my group, there's a good chance you're also an introvert. I'm an introvert. Not everybody is, but I would say about 70% of the people that I in my community are, right? Or they're really surprised to sometimes hear that I am an introvert, but I am an introvert. I am not an introvert when I'm leading you because that is my job, right? And I'm very comfortable in this space, right? But if you put me in a room of people that I don't know, I'm going right to the corner or the ladies' room and standing there all night. It is just not what I want to do. I do not feel comfortable. So those are real fears, though, right? Those are real fears. And I will actually share one in case there's another introvert listening. I'm not kidding when I say I'm afraid of people. In another room, I'm very uncomfortable. I don't like being in crowds, right? That could have to do with the other people's energies. But I started when people were doing a lot of in-person, I would say more before COVID, right? When I would go to in-person networking, my goal was one, just to get in that room and say hi to one person. One person was my goal. If I can get to know one person, that would be it for the night, right? And that's how I started to get into groups, right? I'd meet one person and I would be honest with that person. I'm uncomfortable in groups and introducing myself. And 9 out of 10 times that person would just start introducing me to people, or I knew the next time I'd go, I'd know one person. And then my goal was to meet one more person. And you really only have to go 3 or 4 times and do that. And then you have a core group of people that are also introducing you to other people, right? So if you tell people what you might have a fear about or where you need help, it's human nature to help you. If you're an introvert, you probably have an extroverted friend, right? Because I can actually track all of the friends I have came through an extroverted friend, a mutual extroverted friend. I did not go meet a friend on my own. Right? That's just not the way I do things, right? Or the person themselves is extroverted and they came up to me. Okay, so a fear like that is very real. I'm just going to read the comments for a second. Fearing a program or platform will fail because causes me to hold back in the realm of success? Yeah, we'll talk about that. But the biggest fear would be having to close my doors. Yeah, close your business. So let's talk about the fear of success is very, very big. The fear that nobody will buy my stuff. That's also comes like when you raise your prices, and that's why you probably don't do it because nobody will buy, right? Um, if you set the intention, and that's what you are doing when you're fearing, if you set the intention, nobody will buy my stuff, trust me, nobody will buy your stuff, right? Because you're literally setting that intention when you set a course out there. So what I tell clients is put a course out there with the intention that the right people will find this course and that you are okay to teach it with 1, 2, or 3 people. Because that's how you grow. I used to have these master classes and I used to beg people to come. Now I just put it on the calendar and people show up, right? I really don't care if it's 2 people or if it's 200 people. Whoever shows up are the people that are supposed to be here, right? So that's how you have to put out a program. The right people will show up. And you will see if you run that program, you'll get all the kinks out of it, especially if it's new. With 1 or 2 people, 3 people, you'll get all the kinks out of it. But you also just got reviews, testimonials, and people through your program that can now talk about your program, right? So then you run the program again. And maybe the next time you have 4 people or 5 people. And that's okay. So you have to tell yourself it's not about the money. It's really about you beta testing a new program. And you're putting it out there, right? I beta test stuff all the time because I'm a messy launcher. That's how I do business because I'm not going to put all my time and energy into something and have it not work, right? And sometimes it doesn't work because of me. It's not the right program. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right price. There's all reasons why things don't sell, right? I don't question that I'm not good at what I'm good at, because I know I'm damn good at what I'm good at, but maybe the program was wrong. I'll seed something right now. I have a 12-week mini mastermind going off, I think in like 3 weeks, in April. It's a beta test, right? It's 12-week mini mastermind. I'll hot seat people. I will coach people. I will guide people to growth. I will do it all for 12 weeks. Anyone in there, if there's 2 people in there, they will have all of my attention, right? If there's 12 people, if there's 20, I'll cap it. I probably won't go that high. But it's a beta program and I put things out and I tell people I'm beta testing it. I always put it at a very low price when I beta test because I want to see, I'm working out the kinks, right? So I take away that fear. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell, right? If I only sell a few, that's okay because I'm beta testing it. I'm seeing if I even want to do it. Yeah. And one of the things I'm beta testing this program is it's 12 consecutive weeks. I'm not sure I'm going to want to do that again, right? So I'm going out and I'm doing it. Let me see, right? I teach my business accelerator in 14 weeks and I actually love that class, right? And it's consecutive and it's momentum. And I love the momentum. So that's why I said, let me do a lower end 12-week mastermind class where I can get a really tight cohort and pull them up quickly. Because I like to see growth, right? So beta testing something and not putting all of your fear into it is helpful. Without having anyone show up online. Okay, so someone wrote about posting online. I just want to make sure I'm seeing all this. Posting online, which we all probably have posted stuff and haven't gotten comments or haven't gotten followings. Online is a whole new thing, right? And there are so many people putting programs out all the time online and saying, buy this, buy this, buy this. So you're not really nurturing an audience when you're just asking them to buy your stuff, right? The online stuff is really, you have to nurture an audience, which is a whole different class. But you have to nurture an audience, not just sell to them, right? You have to do stuff and give value, right? I give free master classes. They're all on YouTube. You can watch all of them if you want. It's part of the value that I give so people can understand my core values, how I teach, how I think, right? And it's free. So they have access to me in a limited way. And then I can probably sell to those same people if they want to invest in a bigger program for me. And then we have different levels of programs, also another class. But fear is in all of us. So I used to have a membership, and every time I raised the price of the membership, I used to hold my breath. Like I was so afraid, although I believed that it was way more valuable than I was even charging. I held my breath until one person bought it. And as soon as one person bought it, I knew that it held that value and that I was okay. And I have a thing, once someone invests in something that I put out there, I will never make it lower for anybody else. So if I ever put a sale out there and one person buys it, that sale will never happen again, because I'm never going to undercut one person that's already bought and invested in me. It's just an integrity thing for me. It'll never happen, right? So when I put things out in beta, they're as cheap as they're ever going to be. Nobody following will ever get it that cheap again, because I'll be better. What other fears do you guys have? Anyone want to put anything? I actually wrote notes. I should look at them. Any other fears? Okay. The fears I wrote that are common are fears of success, money blocks, and other limiting beliefs, and then how to take aligned action, right? It is very human to have fear, right? That's how the body and the brain protects us, is to have fear. It means we're going out of our comfort zone, right? Especially in entrepreneurship or any type of personal growth. That's what fear is. It is human to be fearful. If you're not fearful, you are never going out of your comfort zone. You're staying small. Adele, you had a question?
It's a couple of questions. Like, so when you have the money ceiling, right?
Yes.
And you're putting yourself out there, and I like your beta testing. I might be following it as I build my program out. Is it all into one fear, or is there many fears in the bigger picture?
It's usually one fear. So if you can picture like a funnel, right? Of a funnel that goes like this, and it's filled with rocks and sand and all that stuff. There's one big rock at the bottom. And if we can usually move that big rock, the rest will flow through the funnel. So it's usually one core belief. There could be a couple others. And when we clear one core belief, that doesn't mean that you
get 5 others.
Right. You might hit others. There's one big one now, right? But you'll hit an earnings ceiling and it might show up again. Right. Because I do have an earnings ceiling exercise for everybody that we'll go through. Right. But a lot of us have earnings ceilings. Does that answer your question?
Well, kind of, but I guess this has been a long standing, and maybe it's just I'm in my own transition of the transition that is like, I've cleared lots of rocks, but maybe that bolt, like it's just the upper rocks, the boulder still hasn't been moved. And yet I'm like, maybe the boulder was to be aligned to where I am now, to get this program that I'm building now out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So the opposite of fear is not love, by the way. There are people that say that. That is not true. The opposite of fear is really courage, right? And courage produces cash, right? When you show up confident, I should say confidence too, right? When you show up confidently, people believe in you. But first, you have to love yourself. You have to be confident in yourself and in your abilities. And you must believe that you are the very best at something, right? Nobody else can beat you at being you. That's why I love differentiators, also in other classes that I've taught. But when you are so uniquely different than someone else, you can be confident that people will pay your price because they can't get it anywhere else, right? That's why you want to be very unique, right? So if you have fear around, oh, they can go to someone else, or someone does it cheaper, someone does it better, that's a you problem. You have to look inside and say, where is that coming from in me that I don't believe that I'm the best? I had a client yesterday, we were in my mastermind, said, Camille, because we were talking about competition, who's your competition? And I went, I don't have any competition. It just perplexed me. I was like, nobody's my competition. If someone wants to work with someone else, they can, but they're not getting me. There's no cheap way of getting me, right? And I really do believe that to my core. And I think there are more and more people out there saying they're like me, not copying me, just kind of in that same realm, right? But they're not me. Nobody can be me. Nobody can be you, right? So it's a differentiator. And if fears are coming up, then we have to look at what is underlying that fear. Where is that feeling coming from? I see it a lot in older women. So I'm 57, so I see it a lot in my generation, which is Generation X, because we were brought up in a time where we didn't have a lot of role models. Women didn't really lead the world, and the leaders that we did see had masculine energy. Right? So I'm doing things differently. It's very hard for me to find a group of people that are breaking millions of dollars, women, in a soulful way, in a feminine energy, in a place of flow, right? There's just not a lot of them out there. Very few, actually, right? So I struggle to find that. But people my age that's who we're becoming, and we don't have role models. Kathleen, you had a question?
I just want to affirm what you're saying right now. I was in another networking group yesterday, and this came up so strongly, and it was all women. So the idea of women's value, and that relates to financial, but I also think it's at the core of how we run our businesses. Do I really believe, I have a value to give? And I think we've been, especially women, conditioned so much to play small and dumb ourselves down or to be givers and not receive money, like to say, I just have to give and I got to make a free class, so I got to keep it low because this is helping people and I shouldn't be charging too much to help people. So it was a great conversation yesterday, just so it's 2 days in a row that I'm getting this, and it's fascinating to me because I think there's ways, that it's a great conversation for women to keep having with each other, not just our value,
Absolutely.
how much are we worth financially, but even just that, what does it mean to really value ourselves?
Absolutely. I always say that we should be straightening each other's crowns, right? Not fighting. Women are vicious against each other, vicious. And I do see that changing, kind of, not online, but, right? We're here so we can all rise together, right? That is actually feminine energy, collaboration, soul, right? And giving value. But what's also feminine energy is receiving, right? I spent a year practicing asking for help and receiving help. I always choose a word for the year. That my word this year is just being. But I remind myself every day to do it. And now I'm in a space where I can ask for help and receive help, but I'm such a better collaborator because of it, which is feminine energy, right? And feminine and masculine energy, when I say it, are not gender specific. We all have both, right? It's just what we're leading with, right? It's ego and soul. Those are the two differences. One's softer, one's collaborative. One's more nurturing. This is one of the reasons I work with men. Is that because of their masculine energy?
It's because women are nasty.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, I say
And
yes, yes.
It's the feminine rising for the next 20 years.
Yes.
They have to come into their feminine.
Yes.
And they
Agreed.
need someone to help them.
Absolutely.
And that is me.
Got you. Okay. That's actually really good to know. I have someone
Send
to
me all your men.
Yes, I actually have people to introduce you to. And I do believe that that is also happening in the world. We are all moving to a more feminine energy, right?
Yes.
I work with all genders, but I absolutely work with not femininity, feminine energy, collaboration, soul, right? Soul aligned work is feminine energy, right? I work with both genders though. So, or I should say all genders. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter, but it's how they're showing up. All right. Going back to my notes. All right. So understanding fear with intuition, which is the soul, the other side, right? Fear keeps us stuck where we're safe in a safety zone, while intuition or soul pushes us towards new growth, new opportunities. It's the opening of doors. Doors can't open. I just spilled my coffee all over me. Doors can't open if you're in a place of fear, right? And if you're always in that hustle mode and hunting, say, you don't have money, you're trying to get clients, I can't pay the bills. That's from a scarcity mode. You will never find it because an opportunity can't get to you. You're not in receiving mode when you're in hunting mode. Does that make sense? Hunting is masculine, receiving is feminine. You can't be in both at the same time. That's why with clients, when I talk about time blocking, which I think is next month, you should time block with those energies, right? If you're prospecting, that's one time block because that's a masculine energy, right? But your feminine energy is your creative side, right? Creativity is feminine. It's your soulful side. So you want to block creative time to be creative. You don't want to take sales calls in the middle of your creative time, right? There's no such thing as multitasking. We can't do it. It's all false. That's you not being really efficient. That's what multitasking is. You being not efficient. All right. So can any of you think of a time when you felt afraid to succeed, which is a big one? What was going through your mind? How did you perceive money? At any time, were any of you afraid to receive or to succeed? This comes up a lot and this is why I always say I'm a messy launcher, because we're about to launch something. And I was telling my team, if it's going to be a free gift, it's going to be something free that we're doing. So I said, in those first weeks, we are going to have thousands of people come through, right? Our systems are going to break, because we don't have the manpower to do it. And it just has to be until we figure out the right way to do it. We have to watch things break, but breaking things is part of growth, right? It's not, I would be in fear if I said, I don't know how I'm going to handle it. Let me figure out every scenario possible before we launch, right? That is actual coming from a place of fear, right? I do messy launches. I see what happens. I jump right into it and I'll build wings along the way, right? I'll just figure it out. Adele, you had a question?
Well, I just want to add to the fear, because when I used to work in corporate, which was very male dominant, I didn't want to show them up. So I'd keep quiet. rather than saying I know more than they did.
Yeah. So also very common in older women, right?
Well, but it's also quite hilarious that I work with men.
Yeah.
I've grown.
I love that. I love that. I actually wrote an article for Women's History Month, and I've been doing a lot of inner work. I have been for years, but one of the things I have recently realized or put the pieces together, like connected them for me, is I was the oldest daughter in an Italian home, right? A lot of responsibility falls on the oldest daughter of the Italian home, but I was second born to the prodigal son, right? And I didn't realize it, put it all together in my head until I started reading on why I crave success and constantly launch and love community. Like, why am I the way I am? I'm always an overachiever. And it went back to that position in the family because I was never to overshadow my brother, ever. I could never be more successful. And I did a lot of things to show that I was, but it was never acknowledged. Right. So it was kind of like an interesting thing that I had to learn. So I grew up subconsciously not to overshadow a man ever. I still have to remember to shed that a lot. Right. Because women can be put in very bad positions, even safety wise, because we stay quiet. Right. We don't want to be loud. We don't want to play big. We don't want to overshadow. And it's something that we're doing. And many times it's other women that are pushing us back down. Find your place, like push you back down. Right. It's not always men. It can be men. Right. Or society just does it as a whole. Right. So those are some of the fears we have. I played small for a very long time until one day I decided I wouldn't. And the biggest factor in growing big is deciding that that's what you're going to do. It's just making the decision that you're going to do it. Right? And then do one thing a day to make sure that you're doing it. Don't take your foot off the gas. Do baby steps all the way forward. And that's usually how you're breaking through fear once you recognize it. We don't always recognize fear. Right? Kathleen, question?
Just a comment when you're about being afraid to succeed. Number one, similar story in terms of I grew up with 5 brothers. And it was that same thing that like there's a part of me, and this is why I love doing inner child work with women, because there's a part of me the same with you. Like I don't want to outshine my brothers because I was I was one of 8, but I was the 7th out of 8. And so there was a feeling the same thing. And many women I talk to will say similar things, that there was some man in their life that even unconsciously they got the message, don't be bigger than me, like that fear of being included. One last thing I will just say, it was so interesting. I had something was blocking me a couple of weeks ago, and I do a lot of meditating and what I call soul journaling. So I kind of talk to my soul.
Yeah.
But which is can be really great and powerful. But I had this feeling like, oh, you're wanting to like start something big. Where is that coming from? Whatever it means. Like I do have big energy, but because I like looking at where is my intention or energy coming from, kind of. And I had this feeling like, oh, there's still a piece of you that wants to create something big to compensate for the whole of not being enough. Like there's a part of us all, and I think this is really important for women, getting back to my women valuing themselves. Like I think there's part of us, like, so I as I'm doing my business, that was such a great insight, because it's like, what energy am I coming from with my desire to create my work, the feeling I want? And it's not the whole piece. Like there's part of me that just loves this work and I'm excited by it, but there was a little piece of me like, I'll show you, my brothers, that, you think I'm not good enough, I can do this. And so it was fascinating to see those little nuggets that I think as women, we all get somehow caught up in, and even ways we don't even realize it. It can be family, but it's very much societal, that what we've dealt with years.
Yeah. And
so thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. Yeah. And we hold a lot of it subconsciously that we don't realize.
Yep.
We don't realize. When I was getting married, I was 27 when I was getting married. And one, coming from an Italian family, they thought I was pretty freaking old at 27 not to be married already. But I put myself through grad school and I was graduating with my MBA at that point. And everyone was excited about the marriage. Nobody wanted to come to my MBA graduation. Nobody acknowledged it. And I wouldn't get married till I had my MBA. And nobody acknowledged it. And I remember sitting there going, and I was being married like 4 months later, and that's everyone's attention was on that. And nobody cared that I was completing my, I was just like, huh. Like my parents didn't want to come. My fiance at the time didn't want to come. Like it was, and that was like my first eye opener. That should have been a very big clue, but I didn't put all the pieces together. Right. But I remember saying to someone like, why would they not celebrate this? Like, why isn't this a big deal? It's a huge deal to me. Right. Didn't matter. So I think I always played a small game until I decided not to. Right? A small game. A lot of us play small until we decide not to. Yes, people put a lot of emphasis on marriage. I don't think so anymore. Right? In fact, I tell my kids, I think personally, marriage is like the biggest freaking lie we've been all taught, right? I could talk forever on that, right? It just gave women a different job, more responsibility to take care of every freaking thing in the world. And it's not really helpful, right? So, yeah. And I'm actually divorced and single now. So I was married for 22 years, but, and it's really funny because my parents are still alive and my mother has dementia and she still asks, are you dating? Are you going to marry again? Are you dating? That's what she remembers. And I remember one time I looked at her and I said, Mom, women don't need men. Men need women. And she's like, is that right? It was very interesting. That's a whole nother thing. I do think there is a place for a partnership, though. I do believe that. So, and it is nice to find a partner who honors you and all of that. So, so I'm not against the whole idea of it. I'm against the idea of how it used to be, not where it's going. Right. Back to fear and aligned action. Oh, I wanted to do an exercise with you guys if you're up for it. It's called your money earning ceiling.
Can I just add to that though?
Yeah.
It is like I was listening to a podcast from a doctor, I think it was a sex doctor, but they're saying that the paradigm has shifted so far the other way that we've become a lonely society, that we just don't even know how to connect to anybody, let alone get married.
I agree. I actually agree with that.
Yeah. And so you think about what you were talking about, the fear, how to raise the ceiling in your business. Well, how are you raising your ceiling in your personal life too?
I agree that I'm reading a great book right now called Sapiens, and it's actually the history of the human race. It is like phenomenal. It is a long, hard read though. Long, hard read. But now they've caught up to like the 1800s. It started when man was first created and it went all the way through. Fascinating how things actually, like the history behind how we have what we have. We went through wars, we went through and all the things. And today, I was reading that the reason we don't really have wars anymore, right, since the nuclear bomb, because we don't take over countries for assets as much. Like it was really about, people used to have material wealth, and that's what we were taking over and getting, the castles, the crowns, all of that. And we don't do that anymore. So it was an interesting way of looking at it. But yeah, Sapiens, great, great thing. All right. So I want to do an exercise called Discovering Your Earning Ceiling. And this is really to see what your body itself believes that you can achieve. Because sometimes we set goals for ourselves, but our bodies are going, no way in hell, I ain't doing that, right? It's because subconsciously you don't believe that you can do it. So I do this in my my boot camps. This is a big one that I do. And I tend, when I work with clients, I move their earning ceilings. That's one of the things we work on. So especially if I'm working with you scaling, we try to get you from those 100,000s to the millions. So your body believes it. Okay, so I want you all to write down how much you want to make this year. Just put down a number. All right, and now I want you to get comfortable. Relax your whole body. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable. You can zone out if you want. I want you to picture yourself in a lovely, serene, calming place. For me, it's always the ocean. Could be anywhere for you. I want you to close your eyes. Consider your answer. I'm going to ask you the following questions. Imagine you are earning $5,000 in an annual year. Annually. How do you feel? And think about what are your thoughts around it. If you can think of maybe even 3 words. Now, imagine you are earning $10,000 a year. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? Imagine now that you are earning $25,000 a year. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Now imagine that you are earning $50,000 a year. It's easy and you are in flow. How do you feel? Now imagine that you are earning $75,000 a year. How do you feel? Imagine now that you are earning $100,000 a year. How do you feel and what are your thoughts? Imagine now that you are making $250,000 a year. How do you feel and what are your thoughts? Now imagine that you are earning $1 million in a year. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Okay, you guys can open up your eyes. And I'm curious if your body shifted at a certain level. Most people feel visceral reaction at a certain level. Or if you were able to go up to $1 million and you still felt in ease and you knew exactly what you were going to do with the money. Or if there was a time that your body was like, oh boy. I know I wrote this a long time ago because I have it written down. It wasn't until 75,000 that I said, now I feel safety. Right? So for me, I always think about what I can do with the impact that money will have. Everyone thinks about it differently. Does anyone want to share if you discovered anything, what you discovered, any surprises, if your body reacted to something? Or share how high your ceiling actually went. Adele?
When we hit the 75, all of a sudden I felt my chest open up and I could breathe so much deeper. And I was like, interesting. And then,
Very good.
And then when we got to the million, it was like, oh, that thought's been put in my head for a while. Like other people are going, of course you can make $1 million a year. Like, of course you can. And I didn't believe it until today. And I'm like, those seeds that have been
Oh,
planted. So
nice. So your body was very accepting of it.
yeah, and
Awesome.
ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Trish, 200K, I felt safe and accomplished. Very good. Were you able to go all the way up to 1 million? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, when I hit there, that's more for me. And none of it doesn't change the way I felt about my work or my passion. Anything. What it felt for me was I'm good no matter what happens. So, right. So
That's great.
I'm good no matter what happens. And for me, and I never like to bring people down, but I always think, like, my husband and I have these conversations. I'm like, something happens to you, you've got to find that person that's going to teach me how to do what you do with the money so that it continues to make money for me. But I was always self-supporting, right? Until we merged. And so I haven't been responsible for financially supporting
Yeah.
my day-to-day needs for 28 years. So, so for me, it's like, okay, 200 makes me feel like that's where, okay, right? Like I feel good as that as an income,
Yep.
but 1 million makes me feel like, okay, I can take care of myself.
Amazing. I love that. Tom said 250 million felt good. 1 million felt possible and successful, respected, and of service, emotionally resonating. Good.
That's 250,000.
Yeah, I think it is. 100,000 felt safe. I felt very grounded and excited at 1 million. You rock, and felt excited about what I would do with the money. Yeah, a lot of times it reacts as, what do you hear yourself saying to you? What are you saying to yourself? That's a lot of things that I ask when I'm working with clients, working on the mindset and shifting ceilings. What do you hear other people saying about you? And what are you saying to yourself? Right? At those different levels. There is a point sometimes with people, I do this a lot. It's when I think about where I want to go and build, like, it's in the multi-millions as I build out an empire. I always come back to, and I know it is that I'm working on it. Just sharing, I always come back to, but how would I do that? Like, you can't do it selling programs, right? You can't do it, right? And I'm intuitive. So Spirit's always like, you're not supposed to know the how. Like, we will open the doors for you. That is not your concern. You have to hold the space to get there, right? The how comes, and I've learned as I've scaled my business, how I do it comes as you're scaling because it's very clear where the gap is. But you can't see how to make 1 million when you're making 10,000, right? You can't even usually see 50,000 when you're making 10,000, right? When you're consistently making 5K months, it's really hard to see 20K months, right? And the hardest part, I think, is getting your first 100,000 that it's consistent and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, you just know it's coming in every month. That is the hardest part, is getting that type of consistency. Because once you're getting $10,000 months, to go to $20,000 months isn't that hard, because you're not doubling the work. You're getting rid of what doesn't serve you, and you're increasing your prices, right? And then getting from 250 to like 5, you're tweaking automation, you're doing other things, you're hiring people, right? That's why that first 100,000 is so hard. But you don't always have to know how when you can hold the vision that you will. Does that make sense? Every time I get stuck, when I'm doing big things, I have a wealth journal and I write it in future tense, right? Of how I feel in the moment, because everything's happening for me. And I try to stay in that vibration. So that's how we manifest for our manifestors out there. My focus right now is consistency and consistent 30K months. I have to jump off for 11. I get it. I need to get more of your events on the calendar. Thank you, Trisha.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
You as well. All right. Anyone else? I know we're coming to the end. Anyone have any questions that I can help them with? I feel like the hour just like flew by. Or any other fears that come up that we didn't touch on?
So can I just say one thing?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, the fear for the decision. Maybe I make a decision, but the fear is that decision is correct, or how can I really
Oh, that's a good one.
keep doing?
Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you for bringing that up. So I totally understand the fear of not making a decision. And then what do? We procrastinate, or we don't make any decision. And making no decision, there's an opportunity cost, is what you're giving up, not making a decision for either one, right? Even when you make a decision and you find out it's the wrong decision, that's why I say I launch messy, right? Because I could launch something and then I go, oh, that doesn't feel good, or that's not right, or I missed it. I did that earlier at the end of last year. I launched something and went, I don't think this was right. And I pulled it all, right? And even putting it together, had my staff work on it. Like, that was easily a 20 grand mistake. But all of a sudden I launched it and I went, it doesn't feel in alignment. There's something missing. And I pulled it back, right? Because I knew the decision, I went too fast with it, and it just didn't feel good when I went to launch. So you can always fix a bad decision. The beauty of being an entrepreneur is that we move with the times, right? That's the difference between entrepreneurship and business ownership, right? If you own a convenience store and you have to show up every single day, right? Or you're trading time for money, you have to put in more time to make more money. That is not entrepreneurship. That's a job, right? If you have to show up to make money, you've given yourself a job. That is not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is looking for ways to leverage their time to make more money in less time, right? Usually products, passive incomes, right? So while I'm working with people to scale, we're thinking of how do we get rid of things that are on your plate, right? We can't get you, even if I brought you 40 more clients, you can't handle them, right? Go ahead, Adele.
So that's where in the scaling. So yes, I'm building out this program now, but it's also when it's happening, record it so you can sell it again.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
what-
do it
yeah.
once and repurpose it 100 different
Absolutely.
ways.
Absolutely. But you also need the audience to sell it to.
Well, it's okay. I just got to get the program and start it.
Yes, totally agree.
yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now, right? I'm putting out stuff. I'm recording it. You'll see probably the spring and summer, I'm going to be, well, they're all beta tests because I'm only going to run them once live. Then I'm going to record them all. And they'll all go into my my online programs, right? Because I like recording with people. So yeah, exactly. Tom asked, can you elaborate more on your wealth journal and team building? Yes. My wealth journal is just journaling about my future self. Like, I'm actually in first person, but I'm journaling in my future self, right? About things that I'm launching or things that I've done or where my company is already, right? So I stay in that vibration like every morning while I do it. You know, like doors are opening. And sometimes it's just acknowledging, if you guys got our newsletter, I know we're at time if people have to jump, but if you got my last newsletter, we're relaunching the Soul Professional Movement, which was launched in 2020, but now it has like bigger legs because I'm bigger. My connections are bigger. We're in 28 countries already, like things like that, right? So we're in this launch. So I write about that all the time because one of the things that is happening is now I'm getting calls. How can I support you? How can I help? How can I jump into this? How can we sponsor you? How, right? I don't have all the answers. I don't know, right? But I wrote about how easy it is for me to figure out the sponsorship packages, right? I am so lucky that all these people are coming to help me because a couple of years ago, help was my word, I had to practice asking for help, right? Now I'm in receiving mode and people are all around me, right? So I write about that. Team building, Tom, I'm always happy to jump on a call with you too. Team building is if you're growing out a brand or your team, it's how are you still staying in flow and alignment, and you're giving away things that no longer serve you as the founder, the CEO, how you're getting out of the day-to-day operations, right? I call it scaling with soul. I do have a class on it, but I don't think I'm going to teach it live anymore because I get so many different people in there and they're all at different levels of scaling that it was actually very hard to teach. But it is something that I do work with people one-on-one more. That's where I decided to do that work. So that is possible if you need to scale, or we do it in my mastermind. My mastermind is all scaling from 6 figures to 250 right now. If that's where you are. So I think that's all I got. Any other questions? All right, I just want to remind you guys, if it sounds good to you, I am doing my beta for my 12-week mastermind. That will be all about growth in your business. How are you getting stable? Right. So it's mostly for people that are not stable, or they're stable and they want to grow a little bit, because we'll be doing both of that. The first thing is to get everyone stable right now. So if that is calling to you, it's a 12-week program. You are with me live. You do have access to me and a community. It's a very affordable way to work with me. So check that out if you're interested. It will only be at this price once, because I don't know if I'm even doing it again. So we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you guys for joining me today. Please mark your calendar to meet me next month. It's actually on the 3rd Thursday, because I'll be in Costa Rica on the 4th Thursday.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. So it's on the 3rd Thursday, and I think we're doing time blocks. So join me next week and put this in your calendar to join us anytime. It's always free and it's always recorded and put on YouTube if you need it. And that's all I got. Thank you, everyone. Please reach out if I can help you in any way, okay?
Thank you so much. This is really helpful. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.